Hi, sorry about that. Really do apologize. Well, we won't be using the bind aspect with it then, because that seems to... It had actually apparently had eaten all of the memory, of which I have 32 gigs of, so I'm not quite sure how it achieved it. But, okay, no worries. So what we're going to do is just establish our IK again. But we won't be able to like bind it on stream, so we'll just have to establish that early at some point later. But yes, now it is a bit unfortunate that it's decided to do that. I didn't quite realize that it was going to take that much processing power that like it basically caused Streamlabs to die. So anyways, let's you know, basically move along. Rigging mode, skeleton, and go again. It's an IK handle on the shoulder roll up to the forearm twist. I rename that to geometry. Give the skeleton its own group. Group those two together. Character Akia. There we go. And IK handle needs its own group. Throw that in there. Oh dear. How unfortunate. If there's any like issues, please let me know. Alright, so now that we've got the IK handle back in, right? And it behaves mostly as you would expect. You may need something called a pole vector, which we'll do as well. But first, let's just go ahead and rename this. So, there we go. Alright, so that sets up our inverse kinematic handle there, but we still need a control to be able to actually do things with it. So let's just go ahead and make a simple circle NURBS curve. Right, throw that onto, preferable if it went to points rather than the joint. So easiest way, get the layers open, hide that, throw the NURBS curve onto it. Go. And what we can do to make this a little bit neater is to orient this to face either this or this joint, and we do that by just constraining it. Orient, orient or aim towards this one. It doesn't really matter which one actually, but go ahead and just say aim it. It's the same thing. But okay, so from what I understand and the way that I remember it, it is the constrainer and then constrained, if I remember right. So if you would select this, which basically becomes the target, and this is which is affected, hit add. Oops, not like that. Up object. Ah, right. Why does it need that? That should not be that. It should be seen up. There we go. Ah, right. And it did work. It's just got the wrong setting. So play with that again. Aim vector in this case, if we just select the move tool, we see that this object is the upward direction is Y, so it really is just a case of 0, 1 there, and the up vector is still the Y axis in the scene up, so go ahead and add that. Check one more time. axis X, Y, Z. Oh, there we go. Probably would help. There we go. Didn't have the correct axis set up. So now when we move the little control, right, it moves and points towards that, which just makes it a little bit more, a little bit neater. Anyways, and then if we take this, we're just going to call this right arm IK. We could just call it control there and group that as controls for now. Throw that in here. Now, like, we're doing this like to start with, but there's going to be an aspect of like parenting of all the different controls together, which can have funny things when we go to like constrain and manipulate all of our IK controls. So let's just start off and then, you know, work our way upwards, right? So IK handle, it needs to be constrained by this object. So the easiest way of going about that would, I guess, be a point constraint. So this is going to constrain the IK. Point, maintain offset is fine. It doesn't really need to, but that's okay. Just hit add, and now when we move the control, we're gonna move the arm, right? Okay, so that is pretty simple. The next step then, it would be a pole vector, and that will decide, since of course we can't actually like rotate this like this control to then indicate where this elbow should be pointing, right? So we need to do that. And the way I guess I like to do this for now is basically to take like a box or something like that, edit the points, and it'd be good to have this as one object. I don't know if I've got that script to do this though. I don't think I do. Fortunate. Alright. But for now, we'll probably just use the pen instead to do that. And so what we would need is a top-down view that is free of clutter. So I'll take the joints out. Yep. Joints off of there. Delete the NURBS curve there. Preferably some kind of like pen tool rather than like an exact. Yeah, that's a bit exact for my taste. I need like something a bit more precise. And if I could just draw on the grid, that would also be great. So let's just make this grid a little bit more sensible as well. So we'll just set it to like 1 or something. There you go. There we go. So just some like basic triangle like that. I'll just call that pole vector. So pole vector R, right? Okay. Here's the transformation, because all of this freezing transformations and stuff is going to apply to our controls here as well. We're just going to move this over there, or maybe on the actual elbow itself. For neatness sake, probably just orient this according to this bone, right? So if we say that it's yep, so this should aim towards this, right? Perhaps. Let's just see. So constrainer, constrained, constrain, aim. all axis constrained. We want to aim the Y. Okay, hit add, and I want to see, and yes. Okay, so that seems to make some sense, although I would prefer perhaps if it was the x-axis. Actually, the x-axis would be better. Aim vector there, there. Put in, and there we go. It could be the other direction though. So we just reverse the x-axis there. There we go. That's kind of what I wanted to be able to see. Oops. As I'm moving it, it does do something slightly weird. So I'm just going to set it to the world, because it's rotating the object as we're moving it. So it's trying to aim that towards that. Actually, that doesn't really work out well. That's not what I want at all. So I'm just going to undo until I've got it back. Oh yeah, undo again. There you go. Perhaps that's not quite what I want after all. So I'm just going to move it out, scale it down, and then perhaps orient according to this bone instead. Okay. So I'm going to select this bone to this. Orient, and I want this. Maintain offset, no. Okay, no. Nah, that's not what I wanted to do. Tell you what, we'll worry about the neatness of it later. For now, it will just indicate that this is the direction that the pole vector should face. So, yeah, as I say, it is much a learning experience for me as it is for everyone else. So when I rotate this now, the pole vector should follow with it. Okay. And then if I take the IK handle and establish a pole vector, so click this, then click the IK, pole vector, apply. You see how it like snaps and changes the the rig with it? So we got to be really careful about that. Right now it's facing that direction, but this does not necessarily match up. So it might be that it's having some kind of issue where it's not matching up, so it goes to face it, and then immediately you find that that's a bit of a problem. Okay. Apply. May need to do something slightly more precise here. We're just going to look at it like this. And the pole like travels from like this point to this point. So it might be that we need it to be in line with this point here. Not 100% sure exactly. I would have thought that point need to be in between this, but well, let's give it a try. It does still move. In fact, it moves that object as well. Oh yeah, because of course it's parented on dirt. Take that off. You don't want to. So this is creating a dependency that we didn't want. So if we just try again, okay, handle arm, pole vector. So pole vector first. This vector. There we go. Okay, so it doesn't move quite as far now. So now we can try and work out where it should be. It should probably be in the center of this vector. So again, That might be quite difficult to work out though, like where exactly the center is between those 2 points. All vectors are really interesting sometimes. And sometimes what you might have to do is like temporarily move this object so that it's straight. So this is where something like a keyframe might actually come in handy. So I keyframe that, and then when I move the timeline, it will move back. So when I move this so that it's pretty much straight, I guess. Then I'm gonna move this so that it is in line. With that object, move it back a bit then. And now create the pole vector. Right, there we go. And then move the keyframe. Whoops. Should I probably keyframe the pole vector like object as well, the aiming object. But But if we now move this, see, like, roughly towards the center here, see how it starts to line up better? Okay, so now let's try it again, but correctly. So this should still have its keyframe. Okay, cool. Now, that's got its keyframe. We go back to the view here. Get this, move it roughly there, perhaps maybe more to the left. Keyframe that, just so that we've got its location. Perhaps move it further back. There we go. Now move on to a different frame. Straighten the IK out. Okay. Like that, okay. Then move, whoops. Hotkey. Oops. There you go. Not quite there. There. When I look at it now, yep, that's in line. You can always keyframe them as well, just to keep that sort of progress. Okay, so that means we've got these two like snap to a particular place. Okay, and now we can try adding the pole vector constraint on. There we go. Okay, now move that back. Then unhide our geometry. Not sure why that's. That was a little weird. Okay. And then if we look at our pole vector and start moving it more to the right. So we start to see where our placement should be. And if we look back in the orthographic view, it's looking like it's about there-ish, which is a bit strange to me. Never quite 100% easy, but so if we treat that out as our sort of new angle, so to speak. Okay, this has already been keyframed, so that's fine, and it already is constrained to the IK. So we just go ahead, take the IK, remove the pole vector constraint now. And what we can also do like is like remove the IK handle. Go from here, assume preferred, so that it's, you know, pretty much in line, or it should be, just to check that. I just want to check that, so I'm just going to deliberately move that. Assume preferred. Okay. Righty, so that's fine. This should be pretty much exactly as I expect it to be. If it's rotation, they should all be zeroed out. Okay. Now, go ahead and remake the A handle. From there to there again. Okay, handle underscore L. Right. That back in there. Put the point constraint back on. Just use the default because it basically just means no offset. Right, so that's bits working. Then now that we've got this pole vector in the correct position, I am thinking that it shouldn't move. Shouldn't, but we shall see. It might move like a tiny bit. Speaking of which, might be a good idea to duplicate this over and reverse the x-axis, so that perfectly mirrors that on the other side. We can like remove its it basically freeze its transformations later, but we just want to check that it's all okay for now. And I'm just removing the L and like the R and putting the L in there. Anyway, so has it got the constraints on there? Okay, cool. Just trying to work out where exactly I am. I don't know why I've called this L. That was real dumb. Constrain, pole vector. Oh, it was already there. Okay, so now this pole vector, did it change? Only very, very minor amount. So do it? Oh, now I can. Just trying to move it a little closer to the right. Constrain. All constrain. There we go. I only moved it on the x-axis, so I'm just going to take that. I'm on the first keyframe, so I am going to overwrite it. Not quite like that though. Hit S just in case. We are definitely on the first frame, so that's fine. And just check, yep, that pole vector is now functioning. Now we can parent this over onto the control right arm IK, like that. So now when we rotate this, oh, did I mess up? Oh, wait. Oh, did I constrain the wrong thing? I bet I did. Yes, I did. That was... Oh, wait, hang on. It's aiming at... Yes. So the reason why that's happening is because it's the aim constraint is wrong. I see. Yes. The aim constraint should be looking towards this, but when we rotate, it should be unhandled. Yeah. Fine. So constrainer, constrained, train, aim. This one, and the only axis that we need to constrain, yes, would be Y and x-axis, Z, like sorry, Z and x-axis. So these two add up. Maybe I thought about that wrong. Yeah, that should be X and Z. Is it? But A little weird. As perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself with all of the aim constraints and stuff, so let's try and stop the, you know, the like that kind of thing. Either way. That the point being is that what I need to have happen is that when I move the arm, right, and then I rotate it, it's gonna change the angle that this joint, you know, orients at. So obviously you need to include a bunch of like constraints that make sure that the arm doesn't turn weird. So in this case it would be like limiting the rotation. So let's just put that back. And let's just make a start on some of that, I guess. Now, so this I would not expect to rotate very much, if at all. Okay, there we are. Now, it won't rotate right now because, of course, the IK is on it. So we may need to take our control, like, constraints off to be able to to set up sensible what you would call, like, you know, limits. So oh, wait, what? One. Where's it gone? Oh, the constraint isn't there, it's the IK handler, of course. Anyways, delete the IK handler. And we can start defining some limitation in terms of where it should start and finish. Probably not very much. I can't remember, that's on quite a strange value, 0.50. Always fun. I'm very sure I froze this. Oh dear. That's a lot to have to fix. That's... alright, okay, fine. Unparent that, freeze this, reorient it. Go, and then go back to... Yep, so you can, as you can see, it becomes very, very complex sometimes. Oops. Oh, it's kind of named that. So. Dear. Not so great at with names, unfortunately. Name there. Okay, there we go. Oh dear. Oh, that's weird because it's correct on the other side. Joy. All those were zeroed. That's so strange. Got any other weird examples of like weird rotations? Just checking. Maybe that was the only one. Okay. Alright, anyway, back to what we were doing. Alright, enough of that. So, negative figure here probably shouldn't be very much. So, look at the indicator on the bottom left as we do it. Probably, yeah, it looks like -20. Like as you can see, so we don't want very much. We're talking like -40 versus -40-ish. Well, so -40 versus 40 on Z, and of course what that does is that it stops it from rotating. And as you can see, as we're like getting to like the extremes, it sort of starts rotating another axis to compensate almost. Okay. Got the y-axis. Not sure what the delay was in there. Again, you don't want that to be very high, probably because a lot of this is going to be handled by, say, the lift as well. So I don't really want it to be very high. Perhaps something to the effect of 270, maybe not like that. That's a bit weird. Just change that back, just so that I can actually work with it. So -75. And yeah, you have to repeat this for the other side. I don't think that this carries over when you mirror. If you mirror it, I don't think it reverses it or anything to be, you know, proper or anything. This is like 30 degrees, probably more like 20. Right, okay. And then our x-axis doesn't rotate at all. Okay, so what you get with this should be a, you know, rolling, like, kind of action there. Okay. This as well probably does not need very much movement. This is essentially the actual muscle movement that moves the whole like shoulder around. Okay, so anyways, probably not very much that it needs to rotate by. And in this case, we don't want any kind of x-axis rotation because we've already got a twist control here. So x-axis is just going to be nothing. And okay. Y rotation is probably about -60. Whoops, not current, not current. And this, when like coming down, because you still do, it might still come beyond to be, because you need to be able to cross over. Then perhaps something like 66, like 65 degrees. I'm gonna go to 70 just to round it out a little. And then in terms of forward and back movement, there's quite a range that the shoulder can go, but like when you consider there's like one joint, but it's not one joint, it's a series of different joints that combine together because of the way that they rotate. So let's try something like, I don't know, 130 to start with for the maximum. And then for the minimum, you don't really rotate that back as much, but the rest of your shoulder then contributes to form that loop. So let's try I think you're like minus 110 for now. Feels like there are a lot of things that I need to brush up on with regards to this, actually. In particular, like, so say for instance you've got that happening, and then this motion. As you rotate that round a little, although it's obviously like a little bit awkward right now, where like you're hitting the constraints, so it might need to be relaxed a little bit. Okay, so we've got that. And then these sort of twist controls are really easy. You just zero out the non-twist axis and then leave the twisting axis. You only need to do like, what, halfway? Perhaps maybe not even that. We'll say maybe sort of 90 degrees on each side. Minus 90 and 90 for now. That's probably very, very generous though. And you still have to remember that there's the rest of the shoulder that helps with that. Save and save often. It'd be quite nice if we could like drag off some of these, like to keep on the on the screen. So in terms of doing this, then just to remember the values, might be easier to use something like push or Geizo or some other kind of like image capturing app, or Windows snippet or something, just to keep the values like on screen. So in this case, all 3 axes are limited for this shoulder. 0 in X, minus 75 and 20. However, since it's the other side, I believe that you should reverse it. So this is to be 20 and minus 75. I'm not 100% sure though, so we'll just try it. Then 40, 40. Does that produce the same thing, or am I an idiot? And have I applied it to the wrong thing? I have, definitely. Oh, whoops, I've gone and done 20 and minus number there, that was why. Right, okay, so 20 and Oops, it's gonna move to the thing as I did it. Yeah. Max minus 75? Oh, no. Or is it 75 and 20? Ah, right, I see. Yeah, so it's not quite working because of the constraint. It's not the same value. Also help if it was not set up incorrectly there. Whoops. Ah. 0. Just setting it to the same value though. Same as before. I'm not sure that that's gonna work. No, definitely not. 5, try 75 there. When I rotate this, that reaches 75. That is 75 for that side. So when I look at it, rotate Y 75, rotate Y minus 75. Right, okay, that makes sense. Alright, so now I just check what it was that I had actually done. So I went, the maximum here is 75, and then the minimum here was 75. So it can get a little confusing, but at least that's made it a little easier to understand. So in this case, what I needed to do, right, so these are the old settings. So these are the settings for the left side. So on the left side, this was minus 75 and 20. So what we need to do is go 75 and 20. So you swap these around and obviously swap the negative positive around. Okay. And then negative 20 there. So rotate this down to 20. Rotate this down to 20. Right, and then they are the same value. Yep. So that's basically the same value as the other one. Okay, cool. Now we could either do all of our limit rotations like during or after the IK. I guess it doesn't totally matter which one. It's like if you do it before, then it might achieve like a more less glitchy movement as you're doing it. But if you do it after, then you're able to correct things. So, which is partially why I wanted to be able to bind the model so that I could see things like that happening. But obviously that's not a possibility yet. So. But this is all about controls today, so I really want to try and keep to that. We've had our little, exploratory, journey in limiting. Let's go ahead and actually start setting up these controls. And we'll do it in such a way that each control is kind of unique. We don't want to do too much of this fancy parenting just yet. So. All vector, we'll delete the other one and then make it. We're just gonna unparent that for a sec. What I will do is freeze all of them though. So Starting them all off again. But I should also get, and we're going to delete like the old keys as well. Oops, where'd it go? I see why, yeah. It's because I was in the other time. Yeah. So just going to go ahead and delete the keys. That too. Did it only have... Oh, no, it's in the correct places. Okay. So this thing, does it still have its orient constraint? Probably. So I want to undo all of that. I'm going to zero out the rotations so that it's facing back in that direction like that. And I'm going to go ahead and freeze their transforms. So, you know, as with anything, of course, you know, you want their values to be 0, and then when we parent them to the next object, the value that they should have should be, you know, in relation to the parent that they have. So, and I want to remember that. Did I? It just opens the curve thing without realizing it. Did I learn a new shortcut by accident, or did I just? Okay, whatever. Work that. Did I accidentally create a whole bunch of them? One extra. All right, okay. Want to I don't want to get like fancy with like drawing out all the controls and stuff because I don't quite know that yet. So what we'll do is just do some simple stuff. After all, it's only meant to indicate, you know, controls at a basic level. It's not meant to be a full-on like animation course or anything. Like, it's not meant to be necessarily used to animate. It's more just to be able to pose characters that we've got. But hopefully maybe we can learn some things to actually make it a little bit more competent. So, all right then. This then will be our sort of like base. All of our stuff basically joins onto. But again, I don't want to get too fancy with parenting, so we're okay to leave it flat. As with anything, those are frozen. If I were to actually parent this onto this though, you see how that's 0? And if I were to go freeze transformations, oh, it still works. Okay, I'm surprised by that. Would have thought that it wouldn't. But all of the controls by the end would then control the like the handlers and the splines and all of that stuff, which then are controlling the skeleton. So it's sort of like a hierarchy in that respect. So let's make this handle for the 3rd time today. Only this one should be, you know, the actual proper IK handle. Okay, handle, we can go ahead and look at that. Enable solve variable, yep. Priority weight, PO weight. The weight will come into importance later. We're also going to do it for the other side. Up to there. Okay. Would have been good to have the absolute control there just to mirror it over, but I suppose we can always bake that. So when we bake it, it gives us back our old values because it just relates it back to the world. It would also help if I put my suffixes in. But there we go. All right, there you are. And then modify, freeze it, and then that gets put back to 0. But we're still on, still parented to the base. Yeah. Okay. I can handle or L or R? R, no. L there. I suppose you can freeze their transforms as well, but what that might have a effect on the current bindings, so it's probably best not to do that and just let them be. I want to check some of the movement. As you can see, it's not quite the same, so it may be that certain values, which I think I've forgotten to do actually, over here on the limit. Yeah, yes. So there's one issue with the limited controls force. At least it's just 40 either side, so that's fine. Negative 40. My handles again and just quickly test that. The movement should match this time, and they do. Okay. Matched, but it's become misaligned. So this is like a real danger where you've got to bound something, but then doesn't quite match back. Yep, that's bad. That's the easiest way. Delete the handles, set it back to assume preferred. Oh, somewhere here. Yep. So that's how you get everything back. By right-clicking and going assume preferred angle, you get a lot of it back. Provided that it hasn't got some kind of weird key on there or constraint. So if it's constrained, there's nothing else it can do. It's just trying to go back to the angle that it had. But if it's been constrained, obviously that's not going to happen. So we're just going to work out why that happened. So when it's being control Z'd back, you see how it's got this offset? So now it's not quite going to the exact location that it should be. That's really weird. It may also be because of rotation limits, but also because the IK handle isn't being told to go back to an exact location. Mostly because we're fiddling with it as we're doing it. So perhaps what's the best thing to do is to take your limits off. This is some self-discovery for me. So taking the limit, taking the limits off and just working with it, basically, none, and then apply them later, perhaps. That changes my statement earlier then, where I thought that maybe we could do it while having limits on and then adjusting them after. Not totally sure. Anyway. Control Z back. Yep, that proves that right. So when we did it again this time, we messed around with it and then did Control Z. So do that, and we see that the IK handle snaps back into the place correctly because the rotation limits are no longer affecting it. So I guess that's something to just bear in mind as we're just constructing this rig. You might be thinking like, wow, that's like, you know, you're overcomplicating it a little bit. I am. A little bit. A lot, actually. So, let's try and do it kind of simply so we can move on. I can handle arm. What have I got? Right. Left. No. Arm. Left. No. Okay. I wonder what would happen if you froze the transformations here. Okay. Nothing apparently. Throw those back in there. Check their location. Try again. Right, okay, they're frozen now, so they're zeroed out. The undo snaps them perfectly back. Good. Okay, next up, this control here. Let's just quickly bake its pivot so that we've got these values back again. Okay. Sometimes it might be that like the pole vector is not attached to the arm like this, so that it's just controlled like that. Perhaps. For the purposes of just like character art though, I guess we'll leave them uncoupled so that this moves separately. Or maybe we'll look into like joining them in the future. Okay, so I want to constrain this so that it orients according to this wrist bone instead, rather than aiming, because it seems like aiming it takes makes things harder. So all on this. Hang on, it doesn't have like the direction I need it to aim towards. Like at the moment it's just going and orienting according to whatever this is, so this would then match this, right? But that's clearly not what we necessarily want it to do, right? We don't want it to face like this y-axis pointing up. We need the x-axis to do that. So yeah, and get our step snap back on, put it on 90, right? Oh, that doesn't actually get affected by step snap. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Not only that, but also the keyframe. We need to kill the keyframe. Otherwise that's going to be really, really annoying. Now, a little shocked actually that the step snap doesn't affect this tool. I wonder. Not quite. Okay, maybe aim orient it is. So here to here, constrain aim. So no offset, aiming on Y, pointing that way. Yep. Trainer constrained, right? Strange. Okay, maybe it was just that I was ticking the wrong thing or something. It doesn't need to be duplicated over to the other side anyway, but that was a little weird. Oh, whoops. Didn't constrain all access. Derp. I can't read. There we go. That's more what I wanted. Alright, so duplicate the control back. And throw that on the other side. Freeze them both. Now we can put them back to doing that. Buy that one. That one. There we go. Okay, so now that faces that. And we need to point constraint the IK handle to that. IK handle R on this one. Straight up point constrain it. Same to this one. Ah, there we go. I should be able to test. It should be. Oh, did I miss? Apparently. That was a bit weird. I'm doing it the wrong way for one of these. There we are. Makes much more sense now. So when we do this, yep, it should be the same, although I've got a duplicate skeleton there. What? Where did that come from? Oh, would that explain like why I had some weird duplication there? That's so weird. I wasn't expecting that. So then which one's this one? Forearm here. One. Oh, right, so this bit was duplicated? No idea why. Okay. Just checking it wasn't like some weird straggler bone or anything. Okay. One of these orient constraints is only one of them seems to be working. Oh right, yes. Right, that's fair enough. So if we just hit 0 on these, yes, they go back to normal. So the joy of freezing your transformations, yes. Yeah, I anticipated that, you know, like. If my track record is anything to go by, right, a simple IK rig, despite the fact that normally perhaps it might take someone about maybe 10 minutes to set up, I'm having to take a lot longer because it's still, you know, much of a learning process. So there's always something that you can do that messes it up. So I mess things up for you, basically. Anyways, right, this bit. Did I accidentally orient this somehow? No, I did not, thankfully. Alright, okay, I wasn't that stupid. Constrainer, constrained, aim. buy it. Should just check it. Yep. Check that it didn't do anything weird, basically. Okay, and we're gonna move, and yes, there we go. Our controls now face towards the the arm. I just always thought that was kind of more, appealing, right? Like when it actually faces the where it's meant to be going. There you go. All right. Okay. Cool. Let's just save a new scene of that. Oh. I know you can set up a project directory, but I always forget to do that. Okay. So that's that basic thing set up. Now, after that point, you then probably want the wrist to be able to move. So, this was the best way of doing that. Hide the geometry for a sec. In fact, for the most part, we probably should be just hiding the geometry outright. So this then is the forearm twist, or rather it's pointed towards the forearm twist, but we do still need a way of actually twisting this forearm. It would be kind of nice if it wasn't quite so limited to an object like this. Was instead, bound more, visually speaking. Is there a value that we roll in the IK? In this case, there's twist. Oops, wrong one. Come on. So you've got roll, you've got twist. So twist here is controlling the actual twist of the arm. What might be nice is if, for instance, we had this disc here, parented onto this, and that, if we spun this around, that would then control, the actual rotation of the arm. That makes sense. Because when we spin this, it does nothing. Or even maybe, you know what? Maybe we could try pairing a driven key to a value on this. Let's give it a try. So, driven keys then. I haven't made these in a while, and I always forget how exactly to do them. Well, I think it's under key or something in animation. Set driven key, set, right, okay. There's some other control as well. Ah, yeah, here we are. That actually changes the way that this is bound. Right. Or you can use the connection editor. So, how will we go about this? Because I want to orient it so that, and while I'm here, it might be kind of cool if we just have the tail end. Go over and take the tail end and trying to make it more obvious that that's where where it points. Scale it down. So what we get is that. If I freeze that, so I need this to match this orientation, perhaps. Straight orient, right? And when I look at this, because it should be on the Z and Y axis, right? Like Z and X. But I tried this before, and I don't know whether that worked. So let's just try it. Oh, that object is already connected. What the heck? That should not be. Oh no, let me just squeeze down that skeleton and throw this in here. And oh, hey, maintain offset was on. So constrainer, constrained, add. There we go. Yeah, that's what I meant. Alright, so now that we've got that going, and it would be good for this to apply a point constraint, like straight up. Right, so what this gets you is this, right? But then when we rotate this on this axis, what should then happen is that this should drive the twist of the like the arm. It might work better than the pole vector aspect. I'm not 100% sure. It's all just ideas, really. So let's go to set driven key, right? And as always, you should have like a neutral value for your driven key. Driver driven, right? So this currently is the driver, needs to be the driver, yeah, and then the driven is the IK handle, in this case this one, yep. Not visible as a troll. Oh no, I haven't loaded it. Derp. There we go. Twist versus the rotate value. Here, that's a value of nothing on Y. So rotate Y versus the twist value there. So hit key there just to see. Okay. Okay. That's a bit weird. It's not what I'm expecting, actually. Oh hum. Okay, that doesn't work. Never mind. Just kind of throwing ideas about. Never mind that. All vectors it is. That's zeroed out. Duplicate it along. Bake it, bake it, bake it, bake it, bake it. Yep. Okay. L over there. All vector L. that one. Constrain it via pole vector. Just check that it didn't like move a weird amount. Not too weird. That's okay. You're gonna remember as well as that after you've rigged it, you can then rematch it to the model. It's just that it already matches the model to begin with, so we don't really want to be moving it around too much. Okay, so vector. There we go. Right, so now when we rotate the base around, which obviously we're only controlling like this stuff right now, but when we actually move the base around, because it's oh wait, whoops, that's why. There we are. Now the pole vectors here don't actually have any constraints on them. Now in fairness, they're all zeroed out anyway, so it's not too much of a problem. This one is not. So when we go modify freeze transformations, because there's no constraint actually on the pole vector and it's only bound by this group, we're able to freeze the transformations. If, however, the pole vector did have a constraint on it, we wouldn't be able to do that because it would be counting as a connection. While I'm here, just get rid of those lights. Okay. Right. So now when we rotate the base around, it rotates the pole vectors with it. One thing I suppose we can do as well, this root here may as well have a constraint on, sorry, a constraint that is being controlled by this base here. And I suppose the easiest way to do that is a parent constraint. So maintain offset, yes, you definitely want that. All of those are on, apply, right? Because this base should be basically moving the whole character. Okay. So now when we rotate, the character, the pole vectors come with it. You might want to attach the pole vectors on via some other means though. But for now, we'll keep them like this. Alright, so that's mostly these arms sort of done. We can move on to like the whole FK-IK switch later. Obviously we should move into like the limiting as well. I think the limiting could probably be done later though. Because that actually, then is quite a lengthy process. So next IK we should do is the legs area. So over here, let me just find like one of these like skirt joints. Right, this slot. Define apron and skirt stuff. This slot, hide that. Righty. Now, it's the same steps, so the IK would just go straight on and all the way down to, let me just unhide my, just basically down here. And of course, what that gets you is this movement here. But obviously, these twists, joints will need to be restrained. I think we can do like the twist stuff like fairly simply. So on the x-axis 90, we'll say 90. Whoops, not like that though. Minus 90, 90, right? Did I accidentally apply that already though? Just checking. Yeah, it would already add minus 90 on it. There you go. Super worried. Minus 90, 40, 40. That one's a bit dumb. Same's true here. Minus 90, 90. I think that's what confused me earlier. I went over and tried to apply the maxes to the mins and vice versa. Like, basically the wrong way, which was really stupid of me. Anyway, that is now applied, and I'll probably need to do the same for this twist here. So, take two. Those one's already applied. That is 0. 0, because this should not move except for the x-axis, so that the leg can twist. Might be a case where we have to like have 2 IK handles. I'm not totally 100% sure though. Let's give it a try. So anyways, so there we are. So now that like, so now that I've applied that, the like it doesn't twist around. Like it doesn't try to like use it as like a Sonic the Hedgehog leg kind of thing. You still get like issues if you go largely beyond the bounds. Right? Like when you achieve like a flipped leg, and it's really annoying. So like preventing that is pretty difficult sometimes, because like it's usually down to the rotation of the constraints and stuff, but then when you do actually initiate the rotation constraint, you tend to get like weird snapping as well. That can be very annoying. Anyway, so this is IK handle leg underscore right. Imagine that, not being able to quite tell your left from your right still. 0, 0, 90. It's probably a lot less than that, but we'll go with 90 for now. Ah, no, no. There we go. Rigging, I think, is something that should be taken quite slowly. I know that there is a whole bunch of like automatic riggers and human IK and all that stuff, but I think that it is worth kind of learning a little bit about the way that it works normally, because then one thing that I think happens a lot with like human IK riggers and stuff is that, you know, when you know nothing about rigging, you then can't correct what's going wrong. Like it's just that it becomes this sort of like endless loop of you know, things going wrong. And then I suppose like I think that it's worth learning it because you don't want your poses to be limited by, you know, oh no, it looks stupid when I try to do it, so I'm going to just make it, I'm going to compromise the piece, right? After all, a rigger will do this for me, you know, in industry, I guess. And yeah, that's true, but at the same time, you know, it's not, I don't think that's necessarily the best thing. I'm probably going to need the LRA visible again at some point, but for now I'm just going to like hide it. It's just a little cluttered. And while I'm there, put the low poly back on reference. I don't know if we've got time to do a reverse foot, and this is the first time I'm trying to do this with a reverse foot with a high heel. That's very new to me, so I'm not entirely sure exactly how you go about the difference between like high heels and you know, just regular like shoes. So that it'll be interesting to learn. But anyway, what we're gonna do here, after we just like clean this area up, is we're going to try and make a reverse foot as well. I don't think we'll make it in time, but we'll try. At least, at the very least, get it started. A reverse foot, all that really is an inverse kinematic way of controlling the feet. And controls very, very sort of typical, but kind of necessary still, movements that enable you to control to do things like, you know, tiptoeing and pivoting and like tapping, you know, tapping on the ground, like, and obviously way more than that, but you know. So just gonna, for some organizational purposes, just give it some grouping. I want to check as well, when I go ahead and move this around, I am expecting the same movements, right? Because if it moves differently, that is really bad. And if they're going to glitch out, they better glitch out the same way too. Anyway, so there's two set up there, and we need a control for both of these. Okay. Alright, so simple enough. just make like I'm just really like I really should learn how to use the NURBS curve like to actually draw really nice controls, but at the moment it's not quite what I do, and like I just end up making a bunch of like circles and like shaping them. So I'm just gonna make that invisible for a start, hold V, and then move that to basically the base of like where the heel is. Then I'm gonna hold X and then like try and get somewhere on the grid. Did it work? Not quite. Oh no, now it worked. Okay, cool. And then I'm just gonna shape this along so that it looks kind of like, you know, the sole of a shoe or something. And that seems okay. And the pivot is still over here, which I think is very important. Okay, because I think you would want the pivot to be at the ankles location, but on the ground, right? If that makes sense, because then all of your other movements are going to be dependent on where this is based. And of course, when you're like, you know, snapping this to like, I don't know, other points or something, you know, I guess that's the way I would do it, is what I'm saying. Whoops. Not very good at this aiming malarkey. Freeze the transformations, all zeroed out. Okay, fine. Duplicate, bake, right. Take your negative out. And freeze them again. There we go. Righty then, and give them a good name. Let's just say control and then LR. Righty, yep, there we go. Parent to the base. Might as well go ahead and like freeze them again. I don't think it makes much of a difference though there, so that's fine. And right, so that's fine. Now, the IK handle is actually over here, but our actual foot control is on the ground. So, would you parent the IK handle to the foot? Probably. Or would you make another separate control that joins onto that so that you can vary it? Seems more sensible to me, for the purposes of like rebinding and stuff, but at least that's what I think. Probably wouldn't hurt anyone to go over and make another control for it and then attach that to this. Maybe hide the control after if it so bothers you, I guess. Perhaps? I guess I'll have to ask a rigger. I really don't know why it takes me so long to work out the left and right. While I'm here as well, because I've noticed just gonna go through everything and just make sure that they all have the same syntax, and that didn't work. Not renaming name and Freddy. Must have put it somewhere that it shouldn't have been. Right, there we go. It's done. Right, there we go. Very used to using like control as and writing it as CNTRL, but I'm not sure that it probably would just be better off as CNTL or perhaps CTRL. You know what? I'm gonna go with that. So this becomes CTRL. With a capital C. That, replace, there you go. duplicate this across, bake, throw it to the other side, freeze, rename. And they now need to go in attached feet there. So now that we have those like separate, what I'm hoping is that I should then be able to move this up and down to accommodate for a given heel size. Like so if it's tall or short or something. So if I were to rebind this to Yggdra, a different project I've got, then it should be easy to adjust, right? Well, that's what I hope. You know, I would then hope that I could adjust the reverse foot, and then that would control the actual like size. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. So, like we got that there. Now we can parent or point constraint rather the pole vectors on. But no, IK's on. So, ankle L to this point constraint, right? So if I then do repeat that to the other side by pressing G when I select them. I'd like to be able to select these two. Right. And now that is controlling that separately from the legs. The only issue with this is that I can't really extend them out because they're already so straight. So that like kills my theory in terms of like retargeting a high heel to you know, flat shoe. But I suppose what you would do instead is that you would control the actual like the foot here. So an actual flat foot would be more like this, right? In that that's not technically the ankle, right? Have I messed up? Just... oh, okay. It's not technically the ankle, this is the ankle, so that's fine. So if I was to say, oh, okay, I want this to be for, you know, a flat-footed character, right? Maybe something like that. Anyway, let's just reset that. There you go. Should be reset. Okay. I guess something like that. Again, these are independent of like they're independent of the other constraints, so we can actually mess with them a little before we finalize them. Okay, so now like if I've got this leg here and actually move that around, well, I could also move this independently. Not really sure why I would, but there might be a case where that is necessary. What would be good as well is if I were to rotate the like this part, like where, you know, basically to orient the shoe. What would be good is then the rest of the foot kind of like tries to remain like planted. So the way you would do that is via a reverse foot. So let's just go ahead and actually get started on making the reverse foot, right? I think that like we'll afford the time to be able to construct it, then I'll talk about how it actually works, well, a little bit, and then we'll actually make it like work as a control tomorrow. So on our joint maker, go to a view, take the that off and hold your points part. And the way that it works is it just travels the opposite way along the existing construction. But the first part will obviously need to be readjusted after we do this. So like there, just like anywhere, because we're going to bind, like sort of realign it to this, like to be equal to that. Basically, it just goes where the heel goes. And target, whoops, not there, there, then there, then there, right? So just gotta move this part back over there, hit insert, hold the point vertex, I think, yeah, and then Just like it should be aligned. So what you get here is this reverse construction of the foot. One thing to bear in mind, of course, is that this is not level with the bottom of the heel, which of course is a bit of a problem right now. So we might want this bit to be level at the back, like here. So if we just go insert, move it about there-ish. So that will, what that will do is that when we go to rotate this part of this reverse foot, like that, this will pull the rest of this along. So you can do things like, you know, heel tapping and impatience, or orienting the foot from that position. But then when it comes to, like for instance, the character needs to tiptoe, of which, you know, may or may not be more or less limited based on whether or not it's high heels. So in this case, it'd probably be quite limited, but there might still be some movement there where this happens, and the this area is lifted, but sort of from here. I know that's I'm describing it really badly, so I do apologize with that. I'm not entirely sure whether this should remain flat, but I think that most definitely the actual start should really be at the like the floor level, I think. So in order to do that properly, we're just going to align it to the grid. So now it's totally flat and aligned with this shoe area here. You can see that this is not necessarily fully aligned properly with the joint. It needs to be. Again, same there. Same there. Like anything else, it's going to need to be frozen. Constructed it on this side. We can always move it to the other side first. I think that would be... Whoops, don't do it like that. That's a double transform. You're just going to move it to the other side like that. Just make sure that's definitely in line. I think it is. Yep, that's... Yep, like that. Okay. And when you want to go, you want to say, this is actually a control, but it is a skeletal control. So CTRL underscore reverse foot, and then this is actually the heel. You can actually go rev foot, heel, and R. Copy from here. So the next part is the the tiptoe, basically. Then the next part is the the balls of your feet, obviously, and then the next part, of course, is the ankle. Although it's worth remembering that there is a certain there is a twist joint here as well. Like, it's just an extra joint that's made for, I guess, just making sure that it's, you know, controlled. Whereas the ankle is actually here. So it might result in a slightly broken foot. I'm not 100% sure now. Maybe perhaps this was a mistake. We'll have to see. If it is a mistake, I'll have to correct it off though. I've gone slightly nuts. Okay. Just wondering if that was necessary or not. It might not have been. Anyway, like with anything, we just need to freeze it now, and I guess the easiest way would be to freeze from the start. And of course, all of them need their own suffix to determine the side that they're on. Yep, and I just need to orient these now. So, you know, much like anything, they've got to be oriented correctly. So, same thing as before, aim axis X, up axis Y. Orient joints might be needed, but they're all facing the same kind of direction, so I guess we can just go with that. Sorry, I meant like guess up direction. Anyway, try that. So, as we rotating our Y, might be best to try it with auto guess up direction as well. They all kind of point like a relatively like similar direction, so okay, cool. However, our axle, I guess, so to speak, has become our y-axis. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think it should be the z, so we're just going to change that around. So now when this goes up, that's negative. And this goes up, that's positive. Positive. Okay, that's probably all right. So we can leave that. Don't need to get rid of that just yet because we're going to make another one. And let's duplicate it across. Throw that over. What if I freeze again? I just want to freeze it so that I can get it zeroed. It's not quite zeroed though. But presumably that's because it's not in a group. Yeah, that's probably why. Because it's not in a group, it's... Yeah, that would be... That's exactly why actually, because it's not in a group. The zero aspect would be the world, and it can't make it up from there. Okay, that's fine. Okay. What I want to do is just parent these over to these, like the foot areas. Yeah. Foot. This one. Okay. So it's just parented straight up. It's not using constraints. This way. Yep. That. And we're just going to select those. See that. I want to try freezing them again now that they've been paired to a parent object. There we go, that makes sense now. 25, freeze. No, it did not. Yes, it is. It might also be because the joint orient mode isn't on. Oh no, it is on. Okay. Apply. Nope. Again. What happens if I zero that? Ah, right, okay. Okay, but at least the rotations are zeroed, and that's definitely the most important thing. Okay, so that's fine. Just need to orient these now, so be simple. And because they're like facing the same direction, they don't need to necessarily be oriented. Well, I'm saying that, but I don't agree with it actually. No, it doesn't seem right at all. Orient, right, okay. Well, it is determined by driven keys, so we'll go with it for now. And if it turns out that it's a mistake, I'll just simply have to correct it. Alright, so that's the basis of the reverse foot constructed. The actual mechanics of it involve constraining the bones on the feet so that they are manipulated by this reverse foot. So I think the order of which this goes is that you start basically from the ankle and work down. So the ankle, I believe, is a point, and followed by rotations, orient constraint. I am not 100% sure now, so I'm gonna have to refresh my memory on that. So, okay, but we're going over anyway, so it's a good time for me to research it. So, alright, so let's save that. So what did we do today? We took a really long time to basically make what is essentially a very simple IK construction here, but I'm hoping that what we've, like, you know, going through and finding issues, that it helps someone. I hope so anyway. Anyways, sorry about the issues with the connection earlier, because obviously apparently binding the mesh to it had consumed all of the RAM, all 32 gigs of it. Anyways, so please forgive the issue with that. I'm hoping that you've enjoyed it anyway. Alright, so thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.